It was warm and sunny yesterday. Today, well, no, big changes are moving in. If you haven't looked out your window yet, you might want to do that. We'll let you know what's going on.
Plus, our traffic tracker, Hannah Knutson, is in this morning, keeping track of the latest road conditions across southern Colorado. And News Channel 13's Scott Harrison is live, giving you an up-close look at the streets as part of our team coverage.
You're watching KRDO News Channel 13, where the news comes first. Your news starts right now.
Good morning, Colorado. It's 8 a.m. Sunday, October 14th. I'm Colleen Sikora. Danny Freed has the day off. We want to get right out to your weather this morning. Here's a live look at Woodland Park. You can see a nice little light dusting on the trees here in the foreground of our Woodland Park camera. But we want to send it right over to Storm Tracker 13's Marty Venachikwe for a look at this weather alert day we have.
You might have also noticed some of the ice on the left side of that camera. We did have a little bit of freezing drizzle and freezing rain times last night. You might find yourself scraping some windshields this morning. The National Weather Service has issued winter weather advisories for the purple shaded areas and winter storm warnings for the pink shaded areas. And it certainly appears the heaviest snow will fall south of the Arkansas River today. But we do have some bands of snow that have developed from Canyon City through southern parts of Colorado Springs this morning. We have another band that's just moving into southern Douglas County, approaching the Monument area. A little break in between right now for parts of Colorado Springs and Teller County, where we saw a little bit of snow earlier. And I think we'll have intermittent snow like this off and on through the day. The big story for everybody is the 30 to 40 degree temperature drop that we'll notice. I mean, it was really very nice yesterday. We'll continue with periods of snow. That'll produce some roads that at times might be a little slick. We are not expecting a lot of snow in most of our major populated areas today, but it's obviously a big change. Pueblo, a little bit of freezing drizzle. The roads look okay this morning, as seen there from the Pueblo Chieftain studio. We're hovering right around freezing at the moment. And we had a little dusting of snow here over downtown Colorado Springs. Steve's Paint Supply helping us out with this camera up on top of the KRDO studios. Notice the camera bouncing around in the wind, but obviously roadways through Colorado Springs aren't in bad shape. We do have some slick roads up across Monument Hill. Big shock for anybody who's lived here for any length of time. It's not a lot of snow, but it's blowing around, and there's some melting and freezing, and watch the bridges and overpasses as you travel around this morning. And we're not going to see our temperatures move very much today. We'll probably hover in the mid-20s in Colorado Springs. Might actually fall off a little bit in Pueblo as we head into the 20s later on this afternoon. And we'll talk more about snowfall totals across the area in just a moment. But for those of you that have some travel plans, Hannah Knutson's in to give you an update on where you might run into some trouble.
Thank you, Marty. As you had mentioned, around the interstate I-25 here in Colorado Springs, overall smooth sailing this morning. We are accident-free. Here's a look now at I-25 in Castle Rock. Overall, a quiet look on the roadway there, but as we can see, snow forming along the interstate and wet roadways in that area. Also seeing some slowing, but I can't attribute that to the snow. I think it has something to do with it, but this is where the I-25 gap project construction is taking place in that area. Speeds as slow as 38 miles per hour in the northbound lane. And working our way south in Monument, as we were seeing with Marty, snow coming down and taking that drive time now. Downtown Springs from Bijou all the way up to Monument, northbound 25 minutes, southbound if you are traveling from Monument to downtown Springs, 19 minutes is your drive time right now. And overall, drive time is really climbing. Downtown Springs to downtown Denver, 70 minutes right now with an average speed of 59 miles per hour traveling on I-25 going north. And just a reminder, if you are traveling out of DIA today, the airport recently tweeted no major impacts expected, but check with your airline to confirm flight status and drive safely. So I want to get off the maps now and get on the roadways. Overall, a travel rating of a 7. But Scott, what are you seeing and where are you at right now?
Well, right now we're heading south on I-25 at the Interquest Parkway exit, and we wanted to show you what the interstate looks like because we know a lot of people are going to be on the highway today, maybe going up to the Broncos game this afternoon, so we're going to give you a look at it. The highway for the most part is kind of damp, I guess you could say, even slushy in some places. You might see a little bit of light accumulation on the highway here too. Of course, that varies depending on exactly where you are on the highway, and sometimes we've seen it be bone dry with just light powdery snow blowing over it. For the most part, you're going to get it damp, maybe a little bit icy, although we haven't had any problems with it being slick. We haven't seen any cars sliding off the road or anything like that. We haven't seen any accidents either, so all that is good news. It's still windy though, so the wind is really driving the snow. It's still light snow though, but as Marty's been telling you all morning, that still may create some slick spots throughout the day, especially on the bridges and the overpasses, so be aware of that. So we will be here throughout the morning to keep you updated on the situation here in I-25, and what you're seeing here is probably going to be similar to some of the main roads in Colorado Springs as well. We're live on I-25 in the Colorado Springs area. Scott Harrison, KRDO News Channel 13.
All right, Scott, thank you. We'll be sure to get back to you later in the newscast. But for now, in our crime tracker, we have new information about a former Fremont County Sheriff's deputy who pleaded guilty to official misconduct, theft, and tampering with evidence. Christopher Pape has been sentenced to 2 years in prison. We first told you about Pape in June when he was accused of stealing evidence from a crime scene. In addition to the sentence, Pape will also have to pay nearly $6,000 in restitution for the items taken from the scene. The theft was discovered due to differences in crime scene photos. Surveillance video from a pawn shop showed Pape selling some of the items. And we've learned an aspiring model murdered in the Atlanta area has ties to Colorado Springs. Kelsey Quayle was driving to work when she was shot in the back of the neck. The shot caused her to swerve into oncoming traffic and crash head-on. She was taken to the hospital, and police say she died 2 days later. Quayle used to live in the Springs and still has family here. Investigators released this surveillance video from right before the crash. They want to find the drivers of both a white SUV and gray sedan. Well, a man who shot a teen who was lost and looking for directions receives his verdict. Why prosecutors say Jeffrey Ziegler deserved to be found guilty. Marty?
Yeah, Scott mentioned some people may be heading up to Denver for the Bronco game. You know, again, not a lot of snow expected. Probably need to leave yourself a little extra time, but what you certainly need to do is bring blankets and several layers, obviously. I mean, we have some great fans, and I'm sure they'll be out there, but at 24 degrees with some wind and light snow, it's going to be a pretty chilly day. We'll have the neighborhood weather forecast coming up next. 8:09 on this Sunday morning, which is chilly, it's windy. We've had some intermittent light snow showers around Colorado Springs, making for some mainly wet roadways, but at underwater connection at I-25 and Garden of the Gods, looks like traffic is no worse for wear, clipping along at a pretty good pace there. Pueblo County, we have some clouds. We've had a little drizzle, maybe some freezing drizzle in spots, but no snow of note just yet across the Pueblo area. Visibility is not terrible. It's not foggy as seen there from our Vero wireless neighborhood weather network camera, but it is pretty cool. Right now, 20s and lower 30s, pretty commonly found in eastern Colorado. These numbers have been trending down a little bit the last couple of hours. Similar numbers up across the mountains and mountain valleys. And Skycast continues to show bands, broken bands of snow north of the Arkansas River, with some heavier bands in these darker colored areas, mainly south of the Arkansas River. So in those areas where the heavier bands set up, we could have some decent snowfall accumulations. But again, it looks like the heaviest of that will be over the higher terrain to the south and west of Pueblo. Notice at 4 o'clock, things tend to fill in a little bit better in that area. Whereas up around the Pikes Peak region, this is pretty broken precipitation with just some off and on light snow showers. Highs today, well, a good 30 to 40 degrees colder than they were yesterday, with 20s and 30s in most cases. Could have some 40s for Alamosa and Gunnison, and we'll continue with some pretty good wind, especially this morning, so that'll put a real nice bite in the air if you have to be outside. Snow tracker showing, maybe 2 to 4 inch snowfall amounts here for the southern I-25 corridor. Notice the zeros that show up for many of our population centers, the Springs, Pueblo, areas farther east along the river. I do think that we could briefly have a quick dusting to an inch of snow in parts of town if you get the right bursts overhead. Better chance for 1 to 3 inches up across Monument Hill, and we're closing in on an inch up there right now. Similar amounts in Teller County, with some heavier amounts maybe up on top of Pikes Peak. But obviously this isn't going to be a huge snowstorm for us, but for many of you it's the first of the year, and again, be careful with some slick roads. I do think some more significant snowfall will occur on the mountain area south and west of Pueblo, and places like Rye and Beulah could pick up 3 to 6 inches, probably some lighter amounts in Westcliff. I also think west of Pueblo along the Arkansas River we could see some slightly healthier amounts, maybe 1 to 3 inches in Canyon City and 2 to 5 inches for Texas Creek. But in Pueblo, I think we're similar to what we're expecting in Colorado Springs, maybe a dusting to an inch at most. Maybe an inch or two along the Arkansas River, but I do think that most of those slightly heavier amounts will occur just south of the river. That's not unusual. Again, there will be some bands, and a little like thunderstorms, it's hard to know where they're at. So if somebody calls us up and says, hey, I got 4 or 5 inches, it wouldn't shock me, but I think that'll be the exception rather than the rule. And then the trend tonight will be for a gradual decrease in the snowfall, which will probably hang on longest over those mountain areas south and west of Pueblo, which is one of the reasons we'll expect some heavier snow there. I wouldn't be surprised to hear some 6 to 12 inch amounts come out, say, from Cuchara or some of the higher peaks along the Sangre de Cristos. When you wake up tomorrow morning, real cold, so the National Weather Service has issued a freeze warning where all the colorized areas are, which basically means all of you, because it will be plenty cold tonight. With teens in lower 20s in eastern Colorado, Lyman might drop off into the single digits, and we'll have single digits and teens over the mountains and mountain valleys. Speaking of the mountains, how about Cripple Creek this morning? Light dusting of snow, looks more wet than white, but it's plenty cold in Teller County that you might expect some black ice up there. Just be careful as you're traveling around. Don't let that stuff that looks wet fool you, especially on those bridges and overpasses. So we get a couple of real chilly nights here with a hard freeze for most, not just tonight, by the way, but probably tomorrow night. And then gradually, Mother Nature will look at the calendar and understand that it's early in October and, we're supposed to not be quite this cold for too long. And we'll start to warm things up.
Okay, well, we'll definitely be keeping an eye on it as this storm progresses and moves throughout the day.
Yeah, I really think from Colorado Springs radiating outward up into Teller County and over Monument Hill towards Denver, which is a huge surprise to everybody. But even there, it's not the worst snowstorm we're going to see this year, I promise.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Thanks so much, Marty.
You're
Appreciate
welcome.
it. Well, search continues for Washington Post journalist Jamal Khashoggi, what we know about the final moments leading up to his disappearance. And here's a live look at I-25 in Baptist. You can see snow on the side of the road there and probably some wet roads and maybe some icy spots, so do be careful if you're heading out there. We'll be right back after this. And welcome back to Good Morning Colorado. We do want to get to another update on the roads. It's a weather alert day here in southern Colorado. KRDO News Channel 13 Scott Harrison has been driving around this morning and keeping tabs on the conditions. Scott, let us know where you are and how are things looking?
We're on I-25 still, and we're at the Northgate exit, so kind of heading towards Monument to give you a look at what the north side of El Paso County is looking like. We're also driving behind one of those CDOT liquid salt trucks that we've been telling you about. Hopefully you can see that now on the camera. There it is. It's got two huge tanks filled with either salt brine or magnesium chloride, and this is what CDOT typically uses to keep the highways as free of ice and snow as possible. And it seems to be working pretty well so far because we don't see any issues on the roads or on the highways. We haven't seen much of an ice buildup. We haven't seen a slick pavement. We haven't seen cars sliding off. So that is good. Every now and then you'll see a little bit of accumulation of dusty snow, but that's about it. So in case you're wondering, if you plan on going up to the Broncos game or just going around town today, just be aware that the CDOT trucks are out on the highways, just at the very least making sure there's nothing to plow, there hasn't been yet, or making sure they're treating the roads where and when that's needed. So things are looking pretty good on I-25 right now. Again, the main thing is it's just cold and windy out here. So just make sure you're bundled up and that your car is prepared. Make sure you have good tires. Make sure you have plenty of windshield wiper fluid in your reservoirs. We'll keep you updated on what's going on out on the roads this morning. We're live in El Paso County. Scott Harrison, KRDO News Channel 13.
All right, Scott, thank you. Well, turning to some headlines across the nation, Andrew Brunson, the American evangelical leader, is now free after nearly 2 years in custody of the Turkish government. Brunson was convicted of terrorism and espionage connected to the attempted coup in Turkey. After returning to the U.S., Brunson met with President Trump at the White House. The president insisted no deal was made with the Turks to win Brunson's safe return. He also congratulated Brunson, saying he galvanized this country and thanked Turkey's president for his role in freeing Brunson. One man who is not home this morning is Washington Post journalist Jamal Khashoggi. He was last seen entering the Saudi Arabian consulate in Istanbul on October 2nd, but there is no evidence he ever left. According to the Post, Turkish officials say they have audio and video proof Khashoggi was killed inside the consulate. A source says you can hear his voice and the voices of men speaking in Arabic. You can hear how he was interrogated, tortured, and then murdered. In a 60 Minutes interview airing tonight, President Trump spoke about the investigation.
As of this moment, they deny it. We're going to get to the bottom of it, and there will be severe punishment.
The president has said this situation will not affect the lucrative arms deal with Riyadh. Now, a verdict has been reached in the trial of a Detroit homeowner who shot at a black teenager who was asking for directions. A home security camera captures the moment Brennan Walker knocks on a stranger's door for help. A woman answers, and seconds later, her husband emerges with a shotgun in hand and opens fire while Walker runs for his life.
She thought I was trying to break into her house. I was trying to explain to her that I wanted to get directions to go to my school.
Prosecutors say Jeffrey Ziegler intended to kill Walker. The jury convicted him of assault. Walker had missed the bus that day and was lost. Ziegler's wife says he was trying to open the screen door. Her husband says he never meant to aim at Walker.
I wanted it to fire more up in the air, more towards my shoulder, and I didn't get that chance to, like I said, because it was slippery and I didn't have a good grip on the gun.
Prosecutors said Ziegler acted deliberately. He will be sentenced next month and could face up to 12 years in prison.
In sports, one of the most anticipated hockey games of the entire season happened last night. At the Broadmoor World Arena, the Zambonis were out. It was CC and Air Force. We've got your highlights coming up.
And conditions vary somewhat across the area this morning, outside of the fact that everybody's colder. We have some bands of snow right now between Colorado Springs and Pueblo. Could dust up the roads a little bit. We've seen more of that from Monument Hill northward. We'll let you know how long this is going to last and when it's going to end entirely in our extended forecast coming up next. 8:22 now. Happy Sunday, everyone. We've been tracking the rain and snow into the area from the north through the night. And so most of the snow through the night has fallen well north of us, but just recently the bands are coming in. And actually the deeper push of colder air is just coming into El Paso County now, as if it weren't cold enough for you. And so we've continued with some intermittent snow. Started around 5:30, 6 o'clock this morning. It's not been a lot, but I think you kind of get my point about worrying about some glazing on the roadways from this shot at the Greater Woodland Park Chamber of Commerce and Visitor Center. So again, they're not terribly snow-packed, but be real careful for some slick spots that might jump up and catch you if you're cruising along a little bit too quickly here this morning. We're going to stay in the teens today in Woodland Park, and we might pick up about 1 to 3 inches of snow, probably no more than that, down to 5 tonight. 30s tomorrow. I think you wake up with some sunshine tomorrow, but the clouds may build with some instability in the afternoon. If so, a few flurries will be a possibility, but we wouldn't expect any significant snowfall tomorrow. And then gradually things will start to warm up. We'll get into the 40s by Tuesday and Wednesday, and probably 50s by Thursday and Friday. Snow has just moved into Canyon City recently. A little bit of light snow falling around town right now. Again, an inch or two, maybe 3. Possibility today, I think probably on the lower end of things, but you never know. Down to 18 tonight, 40 tomorrow, 50s return Tuesday and Wednesday, 60s then Thursday and Friday. So whatever does fall will melt off very quickly. Pueblo, we've had a little bit of a light freezing drizzle in the last hour or so. You may too have just a little bit of light snow. I think we're talking less than an inch, but we couldn't rule out maybe a quick dusting of snow. And then tonight down to 19. Well below freezing again tomorrow night. Then we start warming things up with 50s through the middle of the week and 60s by the end of the week. And nighttime lows climb back into the 30s. And around Colorado Springs, we had a little burst of snow, dust things up earlier. We've now seen a break in the snow. The wind's still blowing, obviously, as the cameras get knocked around there. And just south of town, it's currently snowing. So Wide Field, Fountain on your way towards Pueblo. Again, we're not expecting a lot of snow today, probably an inch or less. But we will have just enough to make for some slick spots at times. And it'll be pretty chilly the next few days. Yeah, around about Wednesday or so, we'll get back into the 50s, and then I think 60s will return on Thursday, which at the moment looks to be maybe the nicest day this week for outdoor stuff. Things will then cool off some again maybe as we head into Saturday, but it doesn't look to be dramatic, and right now it doesn't look to mean another round of rain or snow. So light snow is first one of the year. You know, maybe our driving skills aren't quite what they should be in the snow and such, so we're just hopeful that everybody's careful out there and we don't want to be playing bumper cars with each other or anything like that. Just get where you're going safely.
Yeah, absolutely. And that 13 degrees is the low tonight. Brr.
Yeah, that's a big story. I mean, for a lot. I mean, I was out yesterday and last night, trying to make sure last minute things were taken care of. I don't want to burst any pipes or anything, but that's definitely something to take into consideration here today.
Sure, absolutely. Thanks so much, Marty.
You're welcome.
Well, it's one of the most highly anticipated hockey matchups of the season in southern Colorado, and it happened last night. Here's KRDO News Channel 13's Nick Rothschild with that and more.
Good morning, I'm Nick Rothschild. This is your morning sports update. Hockey's back, baby! And we got ourselves one of the most fun matchups of the year right off the bat. It's the battle for the Pikes Peak Trophy between Colorado College and Air Force. The Falcons offense was flying early on, dominating time of possession. Carter Epper fires, but saved by Alex Leclerc. Then, nice puck movement by the Fly Guys. Shots by Kyle Hake and Matt Serratori turned away by the big Canadian. Frank Serratori enjoying the action so far, but he would not like this. Trey Bradley between the legs and nearly finds the back of the net, but just a few ticks later on the power play, a shot by Nick Halloran gets saved, but then it's knocked home by Bradley. Look away if you're a Falcons fan. This is ugly. CC claims the Pikes Peak Trophy for the first time ever. It's a 6-1 victory for the Tigers. For 3 years, the 4A state championship match was just out of reach for Discovery Canyon's Nick Lorenz, but in his senior year, he finally broke through and made it to the finals, and he'd face his old friend and former doubles partner, Richter Jordan of Colorado Academy. First set did not go the way of Lorenz, but in the second set, it seemed like he regained control. He'd eventually go up 5-2, and we seemed destined for a 3-set final. However, Jordan storms back and he gave Lorenz no space to operate. At the end of the match, all Nick could do was tip his cap. Lorenz finishes second, and he had an interesting perspective after the match.
Yeah, it's all just fun. I mean, in the end, it's just tennis, and it's not a huge deal. When I was younger, I just kept going up, and then I guess, I mean, it felt like I hit a peak, and then ever since that, I've just been going down. But yeah, it's just been a struggle.
Fair to say you want to take some time away from tennis?
That is fair to say, yeah.
To the Prep Gridiron, Cheyenne Mountain back on the field this week after having to forfeit last week against Pine Creek, taking on Vista Ridge, and the Indians defense came to play. Benjamin Wilkie and Jake Boley have a very important meeting at the quarterback. It's about a sack lunch. On the other end, tough snap for Aaron Burkhoff, but watch the determination shown by Ryan Poolman. He ends up with the ball and a touchdown. Wolves go up early. Later in the first, it's a more conventional touchdown from Peyton Kaiser to Micah Hiltz. Some controversy as to who ends up with this football, but Hiltz ends up with the touchdown, and Vista ends up running away with this one. They win 59-7. Speaking of football, oh yeah, it's Sunday. Broncos are playing later today in a very chilly Broncos Stadium at Mile High. Taking on the Rams, our own Rob Namnam will be at the game. He will have a full wrap-up tonight on KRDO News Channel 13 at 10 o'clock. I'm Nick Rothschild. Have a great day.
Gubernatorial candidates Walker Stapleton and Jared Polis debated for the 4th time last night. We'll take a look at some of the new topics they discussed coming up.
A band of snow, a little heavier where the darker blue is up around Perry Park. We've noticed the interstate up there looks pretty slick. We have another band that's now moving just between Colorado Springs and Pueblo back towards Canyon City. And we'll have intermittent snow like this off and on through the day today. Stick around for more weather.
You're watching KRDO News Channel 13, where the news comes first. Your news starts right now.
And good morning, Colorado. It's 8:31 on Sunday, October 14th. I'm Colleen Sikora. Thanks so much for joining us. It's a weather alert day here in southern Colorado. Here's a live look at Woodland Park from Gold Hill. And you can see that dusting of snow on the trees there. And we are checking in on this weather and kind of what we're expecting for the rest of the day. We're going to send it over to Storm Tracker 13's Marty Venachikwe. Good morning, Marty.
And good morning, Colleen, and good morning, everyone. In that sort of unfocused area on the left side of the screen that you saw was just some ice, and we did have a little freezing rain, freezing drizzle last night. So if you left your car outside, you might find yourself scraping it this morning. And so winter weather alerts are in effect for the purple shaded areas and winter storm warnings for the pink shaded areas. The difference being the heavier snow is likely to fall in the pink shaded areas, and so that's where travel will likely be most difficult. Now, having said that, we have some bands of snow, and I think we'll see these off and on in different areas through the day today. So underneath the bands, it might snow decently for a short time and maybe be just enough to overcome the roadways, even if only temporarily. So watch out for some slick spots, even though we're not expecting a ton of snow with this around our major population centers. We are expecting a 30 to 40 degree temperature drop, meaning where we're at now is as warm as we're going to be today. And the periods of snow, as I mentioned, with some roads that at times might be a little bit slick, even if they don't look terribly snow covered. In Pueblo, we've had a little bit of drizzle that's kind of changed into a freezing drizzle this morning, but the roads look fine at the Pueblo Chieftain Studio. A little bit of light snow at Mortgage Solutions Financial at Union and Montebello Street. You can see just a little dusting of snow, but so far so good on the roadways. Again, be real careful with the bridges and overpasses when they look wet. Sometimes they're not. And Monument, we do have enough snow to cover some of the roadways, and we have noticed slick travel even on the interstate as you travel north of Monument towards Denver. So temperatures are in the 20s and lower 30s now, and that's likely as much as we should expect for the rest of the day. If anything, for some of you anyway, it'll likely get a bit colder. Mentioned some of those travel problems. I'm not the expert on that. Hannah Knudsen is, and she'll come in here and give you some idea of what's going on there.
Thank you, Marty. Well, you sound like an expert because what you are saying is all correct. The overpasses, bridges always use caution, especially on the interstate. If you're traveling to Denver right now, I'm actually getting reports of a crash. I-25 northbound at County Line Road in Centennial. It's blocking the left 2 lanes. That's what CDOT's reporting. Something to keep in mind if you are traveling there. No estimated time of reopening. As we had mentioned, those bridges and overpasses. Here's a look now in Larkspur. We can see the snow-covered roads and wet roads this morning. Use caution if there's black ice all on the roadways. And of course, when we see this, the first major kind of snowfall, drivers getting used to it. So give yourself a few extra minutes if you are commuting on the roadways this morning. Here's a look now at I-25 and Monument and taking that drive time. Downtown Springs to Monument, northbound 23 minutes, southbound 21 minutes. And overall to Denver, not terrible, but they are climbing. Downtown Springs to downtown Denver right now, 69 minutes with an overall average speed of 60 miles per hour on I-25 going north. So getting off the maps now, I want to get to Scott Harrison, who is driving around El Paso County. Scott, what are you seeing right now?
Well, we're right at County Line Road. That's north of Monument near Douglas County and El Paso County where they meet. And we're heading south on that. And we're going to switch to the other camera to show you what it's like up here. Now, this is the on-ramp getting onto the interstate right now. And you can see there's a little bit more snow here. And it's actually snow-packed and icy here. Same thing on the on-ramp on the other side of the highway here. This is what it looks like. And we saw one car had trouble getting up this ramp because of that. So this is the worst of it here as you get north of Monument toward the Douglas County line. And then you can see as we get into the lanes of I-25, you can see that the plows have been through, but for the most part it's slushy and maybe some accumulation. But you can see there's still clear parts of the lanes you can get through, and traffic's going pretty well here so far. So this is kind of the extent of most of the snow that we've seen in the northern part of El Paso County. Again, things have been looking pretty well. We haven't seen any crashes up here. We haven't seen any cars sliding off or anything like that. So the traction seems to be pretty good so far. Again, it's just mostly cold, windy, and snowy. So bear that in mind today. We'll keep you updated on the conditions. We're live in northern El Paso County along I-25. Scott Harrison, KRDO News Channel 13.
It's a jacket and gloves day for sure. Thanks so much, Scott. Republican gubernatorial candidate Walker Stapleton and Democrat candidate Jared Polis debated for the 4th time in Colorado Springs last night. While they did discuss some new topics, nearly all the questions asked were the same as the past 3 debates. In fact, there were really only 2 new questions for the contenders. Some topics the contenders have not talked about before were the Me Too movement and tariffs. Both say sexual misconduct allegations need to be taken seriously. Polis added there could be redemption for someone found guilty, while Stapleton said it's a right and wrong issue.
Yes, we're a people that believe in consequences, and yes, we're a people that believe in redemption.
To me, it's a black and white issue. It's not a gray issue as it appears to be for Congressman Polis.
In regards to new tariffs, both say they are against them, saying it's hurting Colorado farmers. Besides those 2 topics, all other questions asked were the same as the past 3 debates. Another thing that stayed the same yesterday was the mudslinging. The next debate between Stapleton and Polis will be Wednesday in Fort Collins. Marty?
Watching the rain and snow move in from the north through the night. That's why we're seeing more problems on the roadways farther north. It's been going on a little longer. But the bands are starting to come a little farther south now, and we've seen some intermittent snow here in the southern part of the state. We'll see more of it a little later on. More on that coming up next.
And welcome back to Good Morning Colorado. You're taking a live look in Denver. You can see Mile High Stadium in the back there, and lots of snow on the ground and snow coming down. If you're heading up for the game today, be sure to pack maybe a blanket or 10 or 5 coats or at least some good warm clothes for the game today. Time right now is 8:53. Well, it's Fire Prevention Month in Colorado Springs, and the fire department is making fire safety fun and simple. The Colorado Springs Fire Department and the Air Force Academy teamed up to raise fire safety awareness and to help out in the community yesterday. Volunteers went from home to home installing free fire alarms and carbon monoxide testers.
A lot of the houses in this community either don't have them at all or have expired batteries, so we just came to make sure they were all good.
Their goal is to make sure the community understands the importance of having working fire and carbon monoxide alarms, as well as fire prevention and safety awareness. Well, October is also Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and Guerra Dental is getting into the spirit and helping out the Susan G. Komen Foundation. Here's KRDO Radio's Renee Roberts with today's Business Connection.
Thank you so much. Excited to welcome back Dr. Fred Guerra from Guerra Dental. How are you? It's great to see you.
Wonderful. Great to be here, Renee.
Well, let's talk about, and it's got to be concerning, obviously being a dentist. People kind of like to do stuff for themselves, like self-medicine, self-dentistry. Do you see that a lot?
Absolutely. Probably, in an effort to conserve funds, and we can understand that. Two areas of specific concerns might be at-home bleaching, and also people are starting to try to orthodontically correct their bite without having the advice and consent of a dentist. So in the bleaching arena, we've had people that have had numerous problems with inflamed gums, problems with their teeth, having a lot of pain and discomfort. And the issue is you really need to be checked by your dentist to make sure you're free from periodontal disease, things like recession, all the things that can contribute to problems while you're bleaching. And bleaching is really something that was intended to be done by a professional. So see your dentist for that. And in the area of straightening teeth, there are a couple of different products that have come out. Most people have probably seen them on TV, where you take your own impressions and send them in.
Right.
Well, I don't know how qualified people are to take their own impressions. And unless, again, you've been diagnosed to make sure that your teeth are ready to be moved in a healthy environment, we've seen lots of people have problems with this, whether it's pain, loss of tooth structure, gum problems. So leave your straightening up to your orthodontist or your dentist.
Yeah, that sounds like some good advice. Right. And Dr. Guerra, I saw you brought a pink hat in. What's the pink hat for?
Well, absolutely. This happens to be Breast Cancer Awareness Month.
It is.
And
you
we
look
at
good
Guerra,
in pink, by the
thank
way.
you. We at Guerra Dental are proud sponsors of the effort. And our patients that come in, they'll dress up like this. You can check out our Facebook page and see examples. And some of the proceeds go towards the Susan G. Komen Foundation.
So if people dress up in pink, take a selfie and post it to your Facebook page, you'll donate?
Absolutely.
That's fantastic. Back on the pink, Dr. Guerra.
Yeah, you like that?
I love it. It's great. Well, Dr. Guerra, always great seeing you. Tell everybody how they can get in touch with you.
They can certainly check us out at guerradental.com. Our office phone number is 596-1230.
Thank you so much.
You're
and we'll
welcome.
see you next time.
It's my pleasure.
Thank you. And we'll be back with more on Good Morning Colorado coming up next.
Also tracking just intermittent bands of snow across the southern part of the state. Should fill in a little bit later on today. Again, for many of you, we're not expecting a lot of snow, but if you're watching from south and west of Pueblo, there could be some significant amounts. That's not Woodland Park, that's Monument. By the way, it's snowing in both areas right now. They both have a little bit of snow cover and some slick spots to contend with. Not so much in Colorado Springs right now, just a little dusting here and there, but we could maybe pick up an inch of snow before it's all said and done. Real cold today and tonight, lows in the teens. We'll have a nice little warm up, probably mid to late week. Thursday looking like the warmest day with highs in the 60s, but we're going to have to get through a couple of days of cold first. And then it looks pretty quiet for a little while. Maybe late the following week, we'll have another chance for some colder air and some precipitation, but we get a break for at least a week or so.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much, Marty, and thank you for joining us. We'll see you later.
Thanks for watching Southern Colorado's most watched local news. KRDO News Channel 13.